all I know is the truck drove straight down the road that I'm aware of. I don't know what it looked like from the back. It is time for the Dana 60 to go in. Howdy everybody. We are back from our Natchez trip, and I'm gonna go over a few things real quick before we get into what we're doing today. So right before our trip, I ended up doing the sway bar, and let's just say it did not last. The arms were too short and it flipped over on itself, and one heim joint broke and the other one is not straight. So that didn't last very long. But other than that, the Dakota did pretty good. Having a little issue with the transfer case popping out of 4-low into neutral. So that'll have to get figured out, but we are doing the big change. It is time for the Dana 60 to go in. So I am going to start tearing apart the Dakota and getting all of this ready to throw underneath. So this is gonna be a couple month process because I still have to get a few things, but we're finally gonna be putting this Dana 60 up front. And also with the transfer case issue, this 205 might be going in there as well, but that's only if I can make my doubler box work with it. So we're gonna be doing some testing with this and see if I can make it work, even if I have to rotate this box the opposite way. But the 231 that's in there can't hang anymore, especially once the 60 goes in there. This truck's gonna see a lot more skinny pedal. So we'll go ahead and start dropping the skid plate and getting some jacks underneath it, and we're gonna go to town. I've got the hydro assist completely undone and draining the fluid, and I'm kind of at a stopping point because I need to get some taller jacks to get the truck up off the ground to be able to roll the axle out from underneath it. So I'm gonna run to Hobart Freight and see what they don't have. So I'll be back. Ran over to Harbor Freight and did not pick anything up this time because even Harbor Freight is too expensive nowadays. So Home Depot came in clutch. Total of $8 for a few blocks. Didn't know how many I would need, but I have my other jack stands with these platforms I welded on years ago and a piece of cross. So letting some air out of the tires and have it setting down on the frame right now. And just like in good old fashion, basically just as bad as the Ram Charger. I think the Ram Charger might be just a little bit sketchier, but she's there. She's not going nowhere. So next I need to disconnect the shocks and then the brakes, and then I can start taking out the leaf spring bolts. I want to try to roll this whole assembly out as one with the tires attached. So we're gonna see how that goes. So yeah, let me start taking a few things off while the rest of the steering fluid drips out. After a bit of fighting, I've got the axle and leaf springs out of the truck. Got them rolled over and setting over here. Leaf springs, probably gonna reuse. Everything is still up in the air, not sure. 44, might be going for the Toyota back there. Might take the center section and retube it for passenger side, because chromo shafts, gears, lockers, everything be perfect for that Toyota back there. 40s reuse for the truck. But now I've got to go through and start cleaning up the frame. I've got to take all these mounts off, take the bump stops off, and probably just gonna leave that there because this is gonna get moved up somewhere if I stick with leaf springs. And I've kind of generally marked where the center of the axle is, and my only thing is it's not exactly the same on both sides. So I don't know if the hoops were set differently I don't remember how I did it or how everything was done. It's been too long. So all I know is the truck drove straight down the road that I'm aware of. I don't know what it looked like from the back, but now it's time to just start doing some cleanup and take all the brackets off and get ready to move everything forward. And then I can bring the leaf springs in here, and I've got to cut this one mount off, and then I can bolt the springs onto the axle. And I'm bringing these hubs with me tomorrow so I can have them drilled out so I can get these hubs on and get some rollers so we can get the rest of the axle assembled. And we can get this thing rolled in place just to see what we're working with. Most likely gonna stick with leaf springs, because if I go links, I'm talking another couple grand and stuff. So probably gonna say leaf spring. It's just easier to beat on. When I get back to this, get the axle and the hubs will be ready. So for you guys, it'll be pretty quick. I'll see you in a minute. And we're back. Different day, but got a few things done. So got the 60 with the leaf springs kind of set on there. And I've got this perch welded on. Welds aren't looking too bad. I made sure to burn these welds in real nice and hot. And I've kind of just set the leaf springs on there, kind of check things out. And finally got the unit bearings drilled out to accept the 35 spline shafts, and I have not tested them yet, but they do indeed fit. And I've started getting this one set in, so I'm gonna go ahead and press both of these in. And what I'm gonna focus on right now is getting these unit bearings fully prepped. Put all the studs and everything back in them so I can put them back on the axle after we get our shafts in and clean out our differential. So let me go ahead and get these going and I'll throw them on. All right, I've been having a interesting time. It's hot, but it's later in the day. I think it's like 7 o'clock. Cooled down a little bit, aired out the container because it is an absolute oven in here. And yeah, other than having the leaf springs on, the axle is no longer on the jack stands because it fell off. And split the wood there, diff cover hit right there. And I set that leaf spring on there. That one was already on. I set it on there, went to grab that plate, turned around, and it completely fell. Good thing it didn't hit me. But it's hot. I'm trying to get this set up so I can go ahead and put it underneath the Dakota and cut off all my old brackets and put on all my new ones. So I'm lining up the leaf springs right now, and I think I've had them pretty close to being set as long as I haven't tweaked them again. All right, we're back at it, and I've got some new studs for the back, and I was able to get them in with a little bit of persuasion. Threads are a little messed up. I ran the old bolt in and out a few times just to try to clean it up, but they're in and they're not coming back out. I could take them back out, maybe. But I'm waiting on the actual wheel studs, which I'm going to be picking up later. And then we can go ahead and clean up the rest of this axle and put the shafts in and everything. But right now I am working on getting my old mounts off and cleaning them up. And I already have them all cut, and I might be reusing these because these are good plates. So these are all cut off. And now all I need to do is grind down the rest of this bar, because my mounts are going to be, I think, outbore about 1 inch, and then I need to move them forward. So we're going to see if I can reuse the old brackets or not. Not 100% sure. I might have to remake new ones. And then the rear section is going to be moved up into this area somewhere, because I need to line the center of the axle up right about there and push everything about 3 inches forward to be able to have the 40 clear the wheel well. So I'm just gonna be doing some cleanup and prep work, and then we'll go ahead and get the axle rolled out of the container and underneath the truck. I still have to clean up these leaf springs, especially these rear sections. I'm pretty sure those bolts are bent, and we're probably gonna redo these depending on how I go. I might narrow these to the actual width. These front bushings have definitely seen better days, so I might be ordering some new bushings, but this will all work for at least mock-up, because there's definitely quite a bit more to do before this thing's like actually ready to hit the trail, so I've got time. Axle is sitting underneath the truck, finally. Got it redneck sitting under here, under multiple jack stands, and the ichrometer is off a little bit. Got a little gappage there and not as much over there, so the axle needs to slide that way, but it is under here and it is pretty close to lined up to my eyeball mark of where the axle needs to go. Might need to slide it forward just a little bit more, but that's the old mounting point, and the new mounting point is going to be somewhere up in here. Old mounting point was straight on this beam. New mounting point is going to be somewhere up here. So I'm going to most likely take these old mounts right here and do a V-notch in them so they sit up on that, and weld them back in. But what I'll do is I'll do a nice V-notch on them after I figure out how far forward it actually needs to go, so I get the notch correct, and then I'll bolt them on with a washer on the inside, so there is a little bit of slack if I ever have to pull this out. And then I'll go ahead and start tacking things in place. And one thing I have to keep in mind is the pinion angle, which I'm going to have to rotate this axle forward with my trusty strap here. And I'm just gonna get my caster set to pretty much 0, so the steering is perfect, because this is a leaf spring setup and I'm not gonna have to really worry about much droop like a link setup. So main goal, set my caster at 0, have my pinion angle perfect, and then line the axle up. So it's definitely hot out today, definitely warm, but we're gonna keep going on this and get this done. Wow, I am definitely getting red, getting a little bit of sun, trying to stay in the shade. It's definitely a lot cooler, but we're gonna see what we can't get done today. I want to get this axle pretty much lined up, and looking pretty good so far. Having the Dana 60 looks way better than having the Dana 44. That 44 over there is like a twig compared to this Dana 60. Got a little bit of a mess going on. Got everything out here underneath the shade, the only shade that I have. And I've been remaking my shackles, basically cleaned them up. One of them was cracked, but that's fine because I had to shorten them, or I should say narrow them down to a 3-inch width for the leaf springs and the new perches that I'm gonna have. And I can't remember if I mentioned this already. I think I did, but yeah, I got the shackle on the front because it's looking like, to keep the good caster and keep my good steering, it looks like I'm gonna need to do shackles up front, which isn't a huge deal. So I think this is still a little hot. Put my trusty old glove on. But this guy, if I can get it flipped around, which I can't, these guys will end up sitting up in here somewhat like that. That one's still bolted on, it's still cooling down. But yeah, I'll have my shackles sit and I'll try to line it up where it lands flat on here. But it is still definitely hot out, so I'm basically just letting this guy cool down, and then I'm gonna start figuring out my mounts. I may have to order some stuff, but I'm gonna see what I can do with what I have, just material wise, and see if I can make my own boxes. The only issue I'm gonna run into is the actual bushings for both of these, because I only have one set and they're still in the frame and I can't really get them out very easy, so I might end up having to order a few things. And I still have a little bit of cleanup to do on the bottom of this right here, but yeah, so far looking pretty good. Straightened out the shackles a little bit. They're still a little tweaked, but they're gonna work. They're gonna work great. So I'm gonna keep on keeping on. All right, I took a little bit of a break because it was definitely getting warm out, and it's the heat of the day right now, but the sun has dropped behind the trees and it's shaded the complete area, and I've had a chance to cool down. It is still blistering hot in the oven of the containers that I have, and we're gonna get back to it. Ended up going and picking up my new studs, so I can go ahead and drop these in. Unit bearings are 100% ready to go. Ended up using the press and put a little bit of grease on each one, help them press in a little easier. But these unit bearings are ready to be put onto the axle. So I'm working on the hubs right now, and I've never done the hardcore Yukon hubs before, and these instructions, it basically states different part numbers, but for the unit bearing setups, this is basically garbage. I couldn't really find anything. I found one guy on YouTube to kind of look at, but in the instructions you do have to take the old snap ring, and there's like a little shim or washer off of the old hub assembly, so make sure you have that. I'm assuming you might be able to use this lock ring and maybe a shim, but the shim is a little big. I've got one hub fully assembled and it is working perfect. Free position and then lock position. So I'm assuming this is all working correctly. I'm not fully sure. There's definitely still some slack in your splines and stuff, so I'm hoping that this is correct. I'm gonna go this route. I'm gonna ask a few other questions, but I'm gonna go ahead and assemble the other side and get the rest of this done. I ordered all my shackle points and everything, so kind of waiting on those to come in. All right, I'm gonna be honest. It's been a few days since I have recorded anything, and I'm not really sure where I left off because I've done quite a bit off of camera. I think I was kind of in the zone of mocking things up, but I've got stuff situated. I had tools completely everywhere, but let me show you what I got going right now. So all of our brackets are on and welded in place. Got the fronts welded up. Welds aren't the greatest, but I'm gonna be doing some extra bracing, and most of these welds are like double or triple layered. So I've got a cap on the back. I've got to make a cap for the front for both of my rear mounts, and this is full weight on the leaf spring, and I'm pretty sure the axle is moved forward about 1 inch or so from where it sat with the 44. So we're probably going to be in the range of 139 to 140 inch wheelbase, because we were 138. But that's fine. My pinion angle and caster, so going off of the top of this, we are, I believe, 3 degrees back. So I'm probably going to have to throw a very small shim under the leaf spring to kick this back, which I had a feeling was going to end up happening, and that is completely fine. And the other side is pretty much the same. Just got to make a few more little plates to cap the front and finish boxing this in. But all my skids and everything are fully welded, and this is where she is gonna sit. She might sit lower than she did before too, which is kind of what I was hoping for. So then I can match the rear and lower the rear down to match my front, because it's easier to do the rear. I will just get different style shackles and drop her down, or move this guy back. But we will play that by ear. And yeah, I still gotta fix this, but a lot to do. So order of business today, finish all my gussets to strengthen all my mounts up. This is the gussets that I made last night. So this little guy is built to key in right there, so I can weld that. This guy is probably going to get changed up. My original plan was for this to key in and then weld to the plate back there, but I don't think I'm going to do that anymore, just for the way that it's kind of sitting and that I've already welded right in there. So I can't really push this back and set it down all the way. So I think I'm going to do more of just a box system. So we're going to go ahead and box these in on both sides, strengthen it up, and move on to the next part. All right, got the last little gussets or caps on. So this is enclosed. I left the bottom right there open just in case if water does get in there, because it will, because there's a big old open hole right there on the back side, and I don't feel like dealing with that, so that's staying there. This should be plenty strong. The rear is similar to this, so that hasn't broken, so I'm gonna go ahead and trust this. The front I changed up. I was gonna do a key in piece, but I basically just made a frontal brace that kind of ties the front, so it's not just kind of hanging there. And we're gonna see how this one goes. This is gonna be interesting. If I do start having issues, I will tie in some more bracing, but for now I'm gonna call that good and say that this is sitting pretty nice. So now I am working on cutting my shock tab mounts off and welding the new ones on, so I can angle them and get it to land on this pad. And everything, like I said, is sitting nicely. But I think this is probably going to be about as far as I get right now. I've got to order some wheels, and I've got to get my full hydro ram. So until next time, once I get some more parts, I'll go ahead and continue on this. But as always, stay off-road, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Start it up.